Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to read an article titled, Why I Quit My Marriage. And guys, this article is written by a guy, and he has been married for 15 years, and after 15 long years of obviously being very unhappy, he decided, that is it, I am done, and I'm going to end my marriage. And the reason I chose this, guys, is because I don't think there is one of you that's watching this right now that doesn't know at least one guy that's in a marriage, and for all, putting it mildly, he's miserable. He's staying in it maybe because of the kids. He doesn't want to, hurt the kids or cause a big problem with them. He's in it because of his family, doesn't want to cause any problems there, because of a religion, because of his culture, or a combination of all those things. And he's miserable, and you can just see it in his eyes, but doesn't do anything about it. Or maybe you're watching it and you are in a situation like that, or maybe in the past you've been like that. And I'm doing this to show you guys about he shares what was going on behind the scenes, how he was feeling the whole 9 yards, and when he said enough is enough, he moved forward, and pretty much it was the best decision he ever made. He's never been happier, but it wasn't easy, okay? And so if by going over this, guys, this can maybe help some of you that are watching this right now, or maybe someone might see this video later on down the road. It might give them some ideas, show them they're not alone, because, personally, I've seen guys throughout my whole life that have been like this. I can think of two right now, one a friend and one an acquaintance. And both of them, they just look like zombies when they're walking around. It's like the life has been sucked out of them because both the guys and their wives don't get along. There's always turmoil. The kids are unhappy. The kids can see the conflict going on. And the one friend I've definitely talked about saying, dude, it's been a few years and you're unhappy. Have you ever considered? And no, I can't do that because of the kids, or because his parents got divorced. Things like that. And he doesn't want to be considered a failure, or whatever it is. I don't want to be alone, which is madness to me. Why be with someone that yells at you all the time, you're always unhappy, versus be alone with a clean slate to start over? And that is absolute weakness in my opinion. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Guys would stay in a situation that the wife is screaming at you and treating you like crap in front of the kids, I might add, versus being alone. It's insanity. But a lot of guys do that and put up with it. So I'm doing this to show you guys there is a way out. And for the rest of you guys that are single, well, this just confirms why you're not getting married or anything like that. And, I'm going to add more things about my opinion on this subject and examples as I go through this guy's article here. So it starts off again, Why I Quit My Marriage. Love, brokenness, and the hardest choice of my life. He says, I quit my marriage out of love. I love my ex-wife, but not in a romantic sense. Not in a very long time. Not really even like a friend. I loved her like you love someone you knew ages ago, who meant something to you once, but you can barely remember why. I loved her like a half-forgotten dream of someone who was supposed to mean something to me, who should mean something to me. I also quit my marriage out of love for my children and myself. This is the story of how and why. Right then and there, he said he loved her back in the day, but obviously things changed. How many people get together in the beginning and everything's great? You have a lot in common, you have a great time, but then over time, things change. Because people do change. Their values change, their interests change, what's really important and what they hold really important, all these different things, they change. And next thing you know, they got nothing to say to each other. How many of you guys have been out at a restaurant where you've seen an older couple sitting at a table and they got nothing to say to each other? They're sitting there maybe nowadays looking at their phones. Back in the day, they each had a book or a newspaper. And they obviously just rather not be alone, so they're together because they're fearful of being alone, or they need each other to survive, both incomes or whatever. And I'm not talking always old. I've seen couples look like they're in their 40s doing this. What the hell is the point? He says, because I love my ex. I quit my marriage because divorce is better than fighting. Divorce is better than a bad marriage. Absolutely. Divorce is better than endless days of isolation, loneliness, and the silent suffering of sexlessness. I've written before about the lack of intimacy in my marriage in an article. The article was, I didn't do something with myself for 6 months. Here what happened. My ex and I obviously felt some kind of connection because we got married. In retrospect, it was a huge mistake, but we didn't know back then. We didn't know any better, and we didn't have anyone giving us good advice, even though I'm sure we would have taken it anyway. or he wouldn't have taken it anyway. Yeah, a lot of people don't have someone to give them good advice because, let's be honest, most people don't want to say, okay, your buddy comes to you for advice. Do you think I ought to marry her? Well, the best friend is thinking, well, shit, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I tell him what I really think of her and what will happen if you get married and he doesn't want to listen to me, there goes our friendship. Or I BS him because I don't want to upset him and he marries her anyway and he's miserable. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Or a parent or a family member, because a lot of times, remember, misery loves company. I'm sure many of you guys have known people that, for you guys that aren't married, don't ever want to get married, or maybe been married, notice that you've probably been encouraged to get married by people that are miserable in their marriages, because misery loves company. So, good luck trying to find somebody to be real with you about that. That's why I do what I do. He says, but it's not like I hate her. I wanted her to be happy. It just wasn't going to happen with me. Although she denied being unhappy, I could see it, hear it, and feel it every single day. Eventually, 15 years too late, I came to the realization that it was up to me to make a sweeping change. If I didn't do it, it wasn't going to happen. Nobody else in my family acknowledged the brokenness of our marriage. Since I was the only one to recognize the problem, it was up to me to fix it, or at least to try. That's one of the major reasons I asked for a divorce. It took me 6 months to a year, but eventually she admitted her unhappiness. Well, one can make the case that then she could say, well, he ended the marriage, it wasn't my fault. I wanted to try. But a lot of people are unhappy, but they just don't want to admit it. Or they think, well, that's just how it is. You've been married for a long time, so, that's how things are with my family, so, it is what it is. This is why I say so many times, guys, if you have kids and you're in a miserable marriage or just an unhappy one where you don't get along and there's fighting and no love, those kids are going to observe this. And it's very likely they're going to end up in bad relationships just like that because they're going to think that's normal. And if you don't think that's true, look around. I've observed this multiple times throughout my life in friends I've known growing up and then seeing the kind of marriage they're in and many other examples. And by the way, he said 15 years too late that he stayed in this unhappy situation. Life is short, guys. He says, because I love my kids. Divorce is better for my kids. That is and was my conclusion. For years, I bought into the fallacy that divorce is bad for kids. To be sure, divorce is not optimal or ideal. But a healthy, respectful relationship is better for my kids than role modeling a toxic kind of relationship that I would never want my kids to experience. The pain of divorce is temporary. As much as it killed me to bring my kids to tears during the breaking up of the family, they are much happier and healthier now. See? They get parents who demonstrate authentic happiness. They get a dad in a healthy relationship that I dream for them to find one day. A relationship built on trust, respect, attraction, communication, and love. Right. If he stayed with his ex, they wouldn't get to observe that. And like I said, they could end up in a bad situation. And he recognizes this. But how many times have you guys heard, I'm staying in it for the kids? And these people wait until the kids are like 18 years old. They graduate high school. That summer they're at home. They go off to college. And literally the day after they go to college, boom. Okay, we're getting divorced. I've known people that have done this. One family in particular, like 20 years ago, friends of my parents, and literally the daughter, the only child, started her freshman year in college, and like within that week, boom, done. And they waited all those years. And I don't know what her marriage is like today, but it's possible. It could go either way, because they at least ended it when she was 18, but who knows? He says, because I love myself. Divorce made me whole again. I was unhappy for a very long time before I committed to a divorce. The idea had been floated several times over the 15 years, but the last time was the first time I was totally committed to it. I realized, as I mentioned before, that the divorce was not going to happen unless I made it happen. If I was ever going to be happy and fulfilled in a healthy, loving relationship, I would have to dissolve the one I spent 15 years trying to make work. I wasn't a perfect husband, far from it. I had many flaws, but the entire relationship stood on a shaky foundation. A series of seismic situations further eroded the fragile underpinnings of the marriage. Now notice he mentioned here that he did try. But he's being honest, he's not perfect. And guess what? None of us are. There are no perfect men, and there are no perfect women. And he didn't make it try. And there's going to be people, mark my words, that are going to hear this article and have an issue with the guy who wrote this, and me, frankly, for my opinions, that, oh, you should have tried harder and tried and tried and tried. Trust me, he tried, and trust me, it was done. There's a point where it's not worth anymore, putting more effort to it. It's done, and best to move on. But again, this boils down to people's culture, how they were raised, etc., etc. And keep in mind, guys, what may work for you, where whoever you are, what your religion is, what your culture is, may not work for everybody else. So keep that in mind. And I can keep that in mind too. He says, one day I flashed forward 10 years when my kids were going to be out of the house. I had zero doubt that I would divorce my wife then. Did I want to spend 10 more years in an unhealthy relationship? The answer clearly was no. I knew I couldn't grow any further in this relationship. If I was to continue growing, I'd have to do it alone or with somebody else. My personal growth after my divorce skyrocketed, but that's not to say it was easy or painless. I'm sure for the first few years it was very hard, especially the first year, but you take it one day at a time. It's the best you can do. But we all can get a clean slate, guys, a second chance, but you have to be willing to go through the pain to get there. One day at a time. And for those who've been divorced, you know what I'm talking about. He says, because I love my God. Now, some people are going to get fired up in the comment section. I can feel it. He says, I never meant to get divorced. I don't believe in divorce. Rather, I believe in choosing the right partner and sticking it out through thick and thin. One of the reasons behind my strong belief in marriage commitment is my faith. One of the reasons behind I read that part. However, my 15-year marriage wreaked havoc in my relationship with God. I knew if I was going to regain the peace and deep connection with my spiritual creator, I needed to make a drastic change. As odd as it may sound, my relationship with God is much better after my divorce. An added bonus is a greater understanding and appreciation of grace. He says, because I love my future wife. I also had my future wife in mind when I got divorced. Dude, that would be the last thing I'd be thinking about when I'm ending a 15-year bad marriage about another marriage. Easy, cowboy. I knew there was a person out there for me with whom I could create a lasting connection. I believed I deserved this kind of love, and I wanted to share it with someone who could fully appreciate and reciprocate my affection. Well, I got no problem with that if you're a relationship guy, but the idea that the one person out there for me, that's a bunch of crap. There's 8 billion people on the planet almost. Half are men or half are women. There's a lot of potential ones you can get along with, but I wouldn't be too focused on this when you're just starting to get over your first marriage. Slow down there. I'm not yet married again, but I'm deeply committed and wonderful long-term relationship with a woman I love with all my heart and soul. If I'd stayed in my broken marriage even a few years longer, I would never have met her, and that would be a serious tragedy. Well, bro, don't go rushing into this marriage or marriage part 2. Take your time. Okay, learn from all the mistakes you made the first time around. You probably rushed into it the first time. There's no rush. Believe me, quite frankly, you shouldn't get married at all after what you've been through. Just stay together. If you want to be exclusive forever because she's that amazing, great. I guarantee you it's going to be a lot better for you. She's going to treat you a lot better. Because a lot of times people get hitched. That's when things change. Just look around. He says, parting thoughts. Yes, I quit my marriage because of love. I'm so glad that I did. I don't know where you are in your relationships. I don't know if you're single, dating around, or in a committed relationship with someone. But what I do know is that you deserve more than settling. You deserve more than low standards, poor communication, rampant jealousy, controlling actions, and anyone who doesn't celebrate you for who you are as a unique and marvelous person. I agree with that. And guess what? You're going to get a lot more of that when you're not married. You also deserve someone who will challenge you, stand up to you, disagree with you, but never disrespect you. Someone who will tell you the truth even if it hurts, but will do so lovingly and gently so that you can hear it. Yeah, good luck getting that in a marriage after 15 years. Someone who pushes you to your own incredible potential. Someone who will go to your volleyball games, who would dress up as a teenager and sneak into a stadium to dance in the bleachers. Okay? Someone who will go on trips with you, spoil you, and love you, even when it's hard. So, there you go. That's his story here, and I'm going to have a few things to say more, and then I got a few comments to go over here. But anyhow, as you can see, like I said, guys, this was the best decision he ever made. And 15 years, he was in an unhappy marriage. 15. So for those of you guys watching this now, and you are in a bad marriage, because I know a lot of guys that watch me are married, really think about it. Think about the whole, for the kids thing, if that really is feasible, for the family, for the culture, for the religion, because if you're that miserable, life is short. So I would seriously, if you are that unhappy, start looking at options. I would start looking at, I'll talk to a divorce attorney, find out all your options, good, bad, or ugly, and go from there. Find out a good exit strategy, find out what you may lose in the divorce, how much it'll cost you, what you can live on in the worst case scenario, how much you got to pay for alimony, child support, and half your assets gone. Find out everything. Worst case scenario, and where you can go if you decide to go down this path. And this, of course, is after you certainly have tried. You've certainly tried to make it work or be happy. But here's the deal. When you're at a point that you actually feel like you have to try so hard, then honestly, that's when things have definitely gotten pretty bad. Or she's that unreasonable, she's not willing to be in any way, shape, or form helpful or supportive or loving, or quite frankly, gave up on herself, gained 100 pounds. You get the point here. Life is short. And what's common about this guy here, and a lot of guys that have been married and then been through this whole thing, they all say, why didn't I do it sooner? Why did I wait so long? But anyhow, I'm going to read a few comments here. A couple people in agreement. Well, of course, one person in disagreement to this guy's article. One guy says, it takes two people to make a marriage work, and you can't force your spouse to want to stay married to you. I also stayed married for a long time for the sake of my children, and I think I did more damage to them than anything else. See? They observed mom and dad fighting. This sounds like an acquaintance of mine where he and the missus fight often, and the kids are just so upset. It ruins things for the kids. The short-term turmoil of the divorce, of announcing the divorce and everything, is far better than the long-term effect. You have a chance to start over and actually have something healthy and happy, or at least be on your own and be happy, and let them see that. Another guy says, my parents divorced when I was around 9 years old. Best thing ever. They did fight every day, maybe once a week, but the house was miserable and not a home. Thankfully, one of them worked up the courage to end it. Peace came, peace endured. If any of the readers are in a home or house where you cannot get your act together, end the horror show. Put on your big boy panties, show your children that life can be beautiful. Side note, neither one ever talked crap about the other. Not until I was older, but even then, I wish they'd talked about it with a therapist instead. And last, we got somebody that has a problem with this guy getting a divorce. This guy says, I think you are too concerned with you and not about the effect your actions have on others. Divorce is the easy way out. It's for cowards. You don't think so? Try fixing a marriage. Dude, this was from an older guy. Dude, he obviously tried. It obviously was over a long time ago. That's why he took this action here, okay? This whole staying in no matter what, no matter how much suffering is going on, no matter how miserable, is the stupidest thing ever. And people usually say that are in miserable marriages themselves. And as the saying goes, misery loves company. Don't listen to people like that, okay? They just want you to be miserable just like them. And they want you to live according to their views and how they think things ought to be. Don't bother with those people. And remember, you can't make everybody happy. You got to take care of yourself, make yourself happy, and do what's best for you, because nobody else is going to do it. That is for sure. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. For you guys that have been in marriages and they were bad, you eventually ended it, let me know. Was, in fact, the best thing you ever did? I'd like to hear about it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.